My name is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1, and I would like to start off saying Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. And I want to thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and your dedication. And now I would like to discuss another individual who claims to be a veteran, Field McConnell. Now, Field McConnell had made a declaration stating that on the anniversary of the United States Marine Corps, which was November 10th, that a woman from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, would be disbarred and arrested because of allegations that he had made against her, and because Field McConnell has the ear of the President of the United States, and the President of the United States was going to have the woman disbarred. Well, this recording is made on November 11th, on a day where everybody is out celebrating Veterans Day, going to Veterans Day parades all over the United States, including New York City, where President Trump was at. President Trump did not mention Field McConnell, did not mention any disbarment of any lawyer. There was no memo, was no executive action, was no call to the Republican governor of the state of Florida, nothing. And so while Field McConnell is in jail celebrating Veterans Day in his own way, the lawyer that he declared he was going to have disbarred is enjoying Veterans Day with her family and friends. Now, how did Field McConnell get in this situation? Well, there's a rumor going around that he may have been set up. Now, isn't that interesting? Who set Field McConnell up? Well, I would suggest that the rumor that has been going around, that it was Timothy Charles Homseth, he might be one to look at. And what is the evidence that supports Timothy Charles Homseth setting up Field McConnell? Well, let's look at a before and after. Before Timothy Charles Homseth became an important influence with Field McConnell, Field McConnell was mainly interested in veterans as well as children that were part of all this stuff that they talked about, the trafficking, all of that. But once Timothy Homseth entered the picture, things began to change. It changed quickly. Yes, we still had the situation where we were talking about the pedophilia and the sacrifices and all that, but something else just magically came out of thin air, and that was this Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. Now, if you go back, before Tim Homseth came along, there was hardly any mention of this task force. It just came out of nowhere. And so now we have this pedophile Pentagon Task Force. However way you want to. You can put the pedophile before or after. It's up to you. Thing doesn't exist anyway, so it doesn't matter where you put it. Anyway, this task force came about. So, we have this task force. It's out there doing its thing. Got all these Marines going around blowing up California to save all these kids. And then something else happens. One person starts getting accused of having an important part in all this. One person, a lawyer from Florida. And who is the Who brought all this up? Timothy Charles Homseth. Timothy Charles Homseth has been after this woman non-stop for almost 11 years. He wrote a book about her. The book was completely about her. No one else. He got into some hypotheticals and stuff like that in the book, but in the end, it was all about her. Anyway, so he starts talking to Field McConnell, and he keeps bringing her up over and over and over and over again. And so Field McConnell sees an opportunity here, and he starts talking about this woman over and over and over again. And a pattern began to develop because as time went on, the rhetoric became increasingly dark. It started out that he believed the woman was guilty of all these sadistic things and that she should be brought to justice. And then, as time went on, he brought in Kirk Pendergrass and his partner down in Florida, and they started doing their thing, writing these papers to send to Florida and wherever, saying the things that they've been saying on their various webcasts, and that the woman should be disbarred, Broward County should be investigated, this, that, and the other thing. And we kept going, and the rhetoric got ramped up. Then all of a sudden, it turned to death. People should be arrested. They should be executed. They should be shot or hanged. They should be put in Gitmo. It just intensified and intensified and intensified, and to the point where Field McConnell almost daily was making multiple death threats against the woman from Florida. He started calling her Miss Piggy and worse. Started saying all kinds of things, very unchristian things. Started talking about sex, about what happens to female bodies and so on. I mean, it was getting pretty intense. And eventually, the woman in Florida got fed up with all this, marched down to the local courthouse, got an order of protection, cease and desist. And served it on Field McConnell on October 9th, the same day he was having a hearing about some financial problems he was having. Still has, as a matter of fact. Field McConnell, being the man he was, said, no, I'm not going to listen to this woman from Florida. I'm just going to keep at it. And he moved along unabated, day after day after day. And sure enough, not too long afterward, exactly a week ago today, Field McConnell wound up in jail. So, what's funny about all this is, guess who's not in jail? Timothy Charles Homseth. Now, why isn't Timothy in jail? I mean, he's got a warrant out for his arrest, for contempt of court. He got charged with the same thing Field did. Not quite. You see, what Timothy Charles Homseth got charged with was a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor, contempt of court, misdemeanor violations of the protection order against him. Now, why didn't Timothy Homseth get charged with a felony like Field McConnell? Well, that is because Timothy Homseth did something that Field McConnell did not do. Timothy Holmseth refrained from making death threats. Timothy Holmseth did not call for the execution of the woman from Florida. Timothy Holmseth didn't engage in the kind of violent rhetoric that Field McConnell did. He went along with it, but he kept his mouth shut. And so Field McConnell took the fall. Field McConnell may have been set up by Timothy Holmseth. Now, anybody that's had any experience with Timothy Charles Holmseth, like I had, would understand that he claims that he's a nonviolent person. He doesn't condone violence. He doesn't condone people talking about violence. And I'll give you an example. Timothy Holmseth has a Facebook channel. Or at least he had the one particular Facebook channel I'm talking about at one time. And I used to visit that channel every once in a while because I was getting fed up with what Timothy Holmseth was saying about me. So I called him on it. And there was an individual on his Facebook channel. His first name is Malik. I can't think of the guy's last name. But I remember the first name Malik for the simple reason that it was the name of one of the defendants in a very famous high school rape trial. And this Malik apparently lived in the same town as Timothy Holmseth, and they knew each other fairly well. Malik started talking about doing violent things to me, about coming down to Florida, beating me up, maybe killing me. Did it in not so many words, but you got the message. And immediately Tim Holmseth gets in there and says, "Look, I don't condone violence. Don't do that. Don't talk about violence, all that." And then he blocked me from the Facebook page. Thought that was rather curious. There's also another reason that Tim Holmseth blocked me from the Facebook page, but I'll leave that for another day. But the point is, when this talk about violence, and when he found out that I had called the local authorities about this Malay character, he blocked me from the Facebook page. So that was an indication that Timothy Holmseth did not want people talking about violence on his social media site. Now, why is that? Apparently, it's not because he believes, or he does not believe in violence, but because he didn't want his Facebook page taken down, because he was talking about violence. See, that's against Facebook terms of service. And from what I understand, all that material's gone off his Facebook page, because I have people actively looking for that material on his Facebook page, and they can't find it. It's gone. Maybe they didn't go back far enough. Maybe Timothy took the page down and restarted a new one. I don't know, but you can't find that. Anything that has to do with people talking about death to the infidels, it's gone. But here, Field McConnell, he just went all out, calling for death, executions, putting people in gitbo, getting them disbarred. And so Field McConnell was hit with a felony because it crossed the line. Instead of being misdemeanor, contempt of court, cyber stalking, and all that, it turned into felony cyber stalking, because now we're getting into death threats and threats of violence, what they call cyber terrorism. That's what Field McConnell engaged in. That's what he's going to go to trial for. And guess what else Field McConnell's going to be doing? He's going to be spending Thanksgiving in jail. Now, some prisons, I know they do down here in Orange County, Florida, you might get a little turkey and dressing and maybe some potatoes on Thanksgiving. I don't know if they do that for the inmates in Pierce County, Wisconsin. Kind of curious about that one. I may have to check that out. I wonder if Timothy Holmseth is going to have Thanksgiving dinner. If one of his supporters there in Wisconsin or perhaps over in Minnesota, wherever he might be in that little Nissan Rogue of his, is he going to have Thanksgiving dinner? Maybe he'll go to a restaurant, spend some of those donations on a little Thanksgiving dinner, breathing the nice, free, cold air of the Midwest United States. While Field McConnell spends his Thanksgiving in a dank, smelly county jail. Kind of a nice early Christmas present from Timothy Charles Holmseth, don't you think? This is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. Have a good one.